So we did the basic addition and multiplication and subtraction and division. So now we're going to do multi-step inequalities. So it's no different than when we were solving multi-step equations. The only difference is now we have an equality symbol, and we have to really remember that negative rule when you multiply or divide. So if you multiply or divide by a negative, you still have to remember to flip the sign. So our first example here says that negative 5x plus 2 plus 3x is greater than 8. So I'm first going to look on one side of the inequality, and I see that I have negative 5x and a 3x. So since they're on the same side, we're just going to combine them. So negative 5x plus 3x is negative 2x, and then I still have the plus 2, and I rewrite everything else is greater than 8. Now I'm going to solve this. So again, I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 2 from each side. So I'm left with negative 2x is greater than 6. And then here's my last step. I'm going to divide by negative 2. So since I'm dividing by a negative, I have to flip my sign. So it becomes greater than, and then 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So again, we had to flip the sign here because we divided by a negative. And then that's what I'm going to graph on my line. So I'm going to put my negative 3. And I'm going to have an open dot on negative 3 because it's just less than. And then less than goes to the left. And we could plug an answer in. So if we want to make sure we're right, we can take this first equation here. Or we can just check our answer right here. If we've got negative 4, we've got negative 4 is less than negative 3. For number 2, we have to do some distributing here. So same rules apply as if you were to just solve this equation regularly, if it was an equal sign. So we're going to distribute the 3 through. Make sure you multiply both through. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 5 is 15, and then you still have the minus 3. So our next step, we need to combine like terms. So 3x and then 15 minus 3 is 12. So plus 12 is less than 15. Then we're going to subtract 12 on each side. So you're left with 3x is less than 3. And then divide by 3. So when you divide by 3, you're left with x is less than 1. So then that becomes what you are going to graph. So 1. So open circle because it's just less than. So open circle on 1. And then your arrow is going to go to the left because that's less than. And you can always plug in. Let's just take 0 for an example and plug it into our original equation. So we're going to take 3 times 0 plus 5 minus 3 is less than 15. Let's just double check and make sure it works. So 3 times 0 plus 5 is just 5. And 3 times 5 is 15. And 15 minus 3 is 12. And since 12 is less than 15, we know we did our arrow and our equation right. And then lastly, here we have an equation where you have x on both sides. So again, same concept applies. So we're going to move our low x. So I'm going to move the 4x first because there's nothing to combine on each side. So I'm just going to get all my x's on one side. So I'm going to be left with 6 is less than or equal to 12 minus 4x. 12x minus 4x is 8x. Then you still have the minus 2. You want to get your x alone, so we have to move the 2. We're going to add the 2 over. And then we have 8 is less than or equal to 8x. And then finally divide by a positive 8. So since I'm dividing by positive, no need to flip anything. So we've got x is less than or equal to 1. Or greater than or equal to. Now the way I like to look at it is I like to flip it because I do like to have my variable on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to switch my equation around. I'm going to write it as x is greater than or equal to 1. So I didn't flip the sign. All I did was I took the whole equation and I flipped everything and I wrote it exactly as it is said. So, and you do not have to do that step if you don't want to. I just think it's easier to graph if you have the variable on the left-hand side. Because remember, if you want to look at which way the arrow points, your variable has to be on the left-hand side. So we're going to put 1, 2, and 3. Put 5 numbers on your number line. It is going to be a closed circle because it is greater than or equal to. So closed circle on 1, and then greater than, we're going to go to the right. And again, if we wanted to plug something in, we could. So let's just take 2, for example, plug it into the original. 4 times 2 plus 6, is that less than 12 times 2 minus 2? So 4 times 2 is 8 plus 6. 12 times 2 is 24. 8 plus 6 is 14, and 24 minus 2 is 22. So that works out, so we can check that we did everything correct.